Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Communicate to Lead Leadership Conference. This is a wonderful opportunity for us to learn from one another, and how exciting that this is completely virtual. So we have another wonderful, exciting guest that has joined us today, Lead-Shiyterea. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Charlie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be in this space, and hello to your audience. Hello to all of you who have signed up for this virtual conference, Communicate to Lead. It is going to be an experience.
Awesome, wonderful. So I'm telling you, I'm already just feeling all of the wonderful good vibes within this session before you have even jumped into it. So I hope everybody else out there feels the energy and the love, because we're here to really support each and every one of you all through your leadership journey. So Lead-Shiyterea, if you could please kick us off with telling us who you are and then what you do within your organization.
So my name is Lead-Shiyterea Jones, and I have an organization, a leadership development consulting firm where I advise leaders on how to build their identity while increasing their professional impact and restoring their job enjoyment. So essentially, what would it mean to you as a leader if you could improve just one of your professional relationships without having emotional baggage, without feeling overwhelmed, without being burdened, and still having the great impact that you were designed to have as a leader? And so I help leaders to do that. I advise them on the processes that they are to take in order to increase their impact as they stand in their identity as a leader.
Wonderful. I'm telling you, every one of these conversations has gone back to the importance of strong relationships. And so to have somebody like you who can help folks specialize in working on how to be able to build those strong relationships is wonderful. So hats off to you and the work that you're doing for leaders. Yeah.
Thank you, Charlie.
Welcome, you're welcome. So when we're talking about that, let's get into it. Something that is a ongoing conversation is the importance of an organization having a strong, clear vision. So what is your recommendations, or what are some things that you've seen and found successful when trying to articulate that vision as a leader?
Well, I think ultimately, in order to know what works as a leader, you have to know what doesn't work. And I think we can talk about all the great things that we can
Yeah.
do as leaders, but if we don't stop and say, wait a minute, what are some things I don't want to get into? What are some situations I don't want to place myself in? What can hinder me from having a great vision? Then we aren't going to be able to, really forecast and display that vision. And so as a leader, I used to work for an organization in the grocery retail industry. And when I first took over my district, I knew essentially that there were some people issues in the organization because, or in that particular area of responsibility, because the district manager previously who had those stores communicated that to me. He told me, these are the issues, these are the problems, this is the situation with these two particular managers. And because I wasn't clear on who I was, my identity as a leader, I did not properly grab a hold of that information in order to cast a vision. Because as a leader, when you are casting vision, when you are setting yourself up for success, and when you are setting your team up for success, you have to understand who you are, how you're going to be perceived, who your audience is that you are speaking to, and how they're going to receive the information. A lot of times we cast vision and we forget that it's not just if I can simply place the information, but it's, can my recipients receive it based on who they are? And so I fumbled the ball because I clearly did not take into consideration who my store managers were at the time, or who even I was at the time. And so I cast this vision of what the goal is and where we want to see ourselves. And ultimately, they were frustrated because the company I worked for had this they are known for redistricting very often. And so the employees were already strained relationally. They were already emotionally drained. They were already frustrated with where they were going because they had to enter into another relationship after not being exposed to strengthening the previous relationships that they have. So their guards are already up. So as a leader, another thing you have to make sure that you are doing when you are casting vision is making sure that you're helping those who you're casting this vision for to connect with you in a way that allows them to lower their guards. A lot of times we're coming in as leaders and we're confident in our technical capabilities, but we're forgetting that we're dealing with people at the end of the day. And if we cannot communicate and connect in a way that tells them this is a safe place and I'm available for you, your vision will fail.
That's it, right? Okay, this session's over. Shiyterea, shut it down. That's all you need to know, leaders. Do what she said. But you're right, oftentimes it's the worker bees that get promoted and get into these leadership roles. And sounds like you were probably one of them. I know I was one of them. And we could get caught up in work, 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 work. But it's very important for us to remember the people. And when you remember the people, even remembering yourself as a person, that you are not a machine either. And so I like that you referenced that importance to be able to cast that vision is to, number one, remember who the people are. First, remember that they are people, and then who they are, so that you can actually articulate your vision in a way that is well received. Because you're going to get nowhere, like you said, with those guards up. It's not going to work. So I completely agree with you. That's great. So when we're kind of switching gears, because now we have this clear vision, we know who we're leading, we know who we're working with. A big piece of leading people is decision making. And there is a lot of decisions that have to be made as a leader on a daily basis. I make the joke that I make decisions all day long, that when I get home, sometimes I don't want to make not another decision, because in one 8-hour day, or 10, 12, let's be honest, I've probably made 50 plus decisions. So what do you say when it comes to making those effective decisions, especially when we're faced with high pressure roles? What do you say on how to communicate and make those decisions?
I love what you said about even bringing in your home life into perspective here. Because a lot of times as leaders, we forget that we're not just all about work. It does have to be a remembrance that there is a part of us that exists outside of work. And when we holistically bring our person to work, we can make decisions better. And I think because we have been trained to compartmentalize, it's more draining than it would be if I brought my entire self to work. If I came and I showed up in all of my authenticity, if I showed up as fully Shiyterea Samantha Jones, then I would not have a problem deciding what to do because all of me would be present. It's like, we are a full body, right? And if one of our organs does not work properly, then it causes issues within the body. And so oftentimes as leaders, we're compartmentalizing, we're putting portions of ourselves to the side, which is actually impacting the way we make decisions. And so the number one thing I say when it comes to leading and making decisions well is to bring your entire self. That means to bring yourself spiritually, bring yourself emotionally, bring yourself physically into the place. Because when I was trained as a leader, and yes, you're right, I was a worker bee, an individual contributor who was promoted, not necessarily in the organization that I gave the previous example for, but that was the progression. And so when I used to make decisions and when I would lead, what would happen is I would leave the fun side of me out of it. I would leave the compassionate side of me out of it. I would leave the personal side of me out of it, and it would impact how I would make decisions. But when I decided, wait a minute, in these high pressure situations, if I brought my whole self into the situation, I could decide better. Then I stepped back and I said, I'm going to take the cue from the teams out here who are in the sports arena. When they are in high pressure situations, what do? They take a timeout. They regroup and they re-engage. And so often as leaders, we don't take the time to bring our whole self, to bring our full self into the picture, and then know that it's okay not to know in the moment You can take a step back. I know there are emergency situations where we're like, I need to make a decision right now, right now, right now, right now. But even in those situations, you have to have a moment to really take it in so you can make a decision that is going to be effective for all. So I would say, one, bring your whole self. Two, take a moment to regroup, then re-engage and go forward with the decision you're making.
Absolutely. I love that. Bring your whole self when you're a leader, which is often why, as leaders, we're so tired. Sometimes, I mean, we can really get exhausted by it all because when we're authentically leading, we're bringing our whole self, right? And so, we're sharing if we are wives or husbands or mothers or daughters, we're talking about those pieces because when we show that side of us, then it makes others want to follow us because they say like, oh, okay, she's a real person. She's in the trenches with us. She understands what it's like to have to come and work the shift when maybe she stayed up all night with the baby or whatnot. So I agree with you. I think decisions are made more effectively when you bring your whole self because now you start leading with empathy and you'll start being able to say, okay, you know what? Yeah, somebody called in today. I need to, make sure I put somebody in this role. I'm not just going to put anybody. I'm going to be methodical. I'm going to slow down and I'm going to think about who can I call in to cover this shift. Because if you just be a machine, and you just, oh, whoever's next on the list, that's gonna be a bad decision. Now that person's gonna say, nope, I can't come in either. Nope, that can't come in either. When if you would have slowed down, brought your whole self, and thought about who would be the best person who could do this in this time of need, then you wouldn't have to waste so much time. So that I like that a lot. Bring your whole self. It's gonna be tiring bringing your whole self, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. When I think about being tired and that piece of it, I want to talk about that ability to be resilient as a leader and how to manage that stress. I often hear people say work-life balance, but through these conversations, I've seen that people are like, hey, we don't even call it that anymore. Talk to me a little bit about how leaders should be resilient. How can they handle the stress that comes with bringing their whole self to that leadership role?
I love that question because a lot of times as leaders, there is so much pressure on us on a day-to-day basis. And
Mhm.
don't bring your whole self. That's when you don't have the answer to how to solve the problem. So
Mhm.
I have a grocery background. That's where I come from, the retail grocery industry. And I remember being promoted about maybe 16 years ago. And when I was promoted into customer service manager position, I was responsible for reporting the amount of cash we either were over or short. And I remember being so stressed to this process because I discovered, wait a minute, these people stealing here trying to make sure that we are serving the customers and doing our best and the drawers are great. And y'all trying me today. You really done stole that money because you knew I said this was gonna come back, that the $5 was gonna come back because of what happened with the drawer. And so I would be so stressed out in the bookkeeping office, having a meltdown, crying, like, what is going on? But it was not until I realized that if I don't bring what grounds me to work, then I
Mhm.
can't work well. And so for me personally, I bring my belief system with me, and that grounds me. And so as a Christian, I'm going to be praying. I'm going to be reciting scriptures in my mind. I'm going to
Mhm.
make sure that what keeps me focused is always with me. And a lot of times we're not making sure that what fills us up is always,
Mhm.
you might not be a Christian as a leader, but what is your belief system? What is that thing that keeps you grounded? Where is your source? Because we all have one. If we don't have a source, if we have no place to go back to, then we think that it all rests on us. And then we're carrying a weight that's bigger than us. So for me, I no longer carry weights that are bigger than me. I say, wait a minute, I don't have this answer. I don't know. Lord, show me. And so I do that. in my personal life, and I do that in my business. I do that as a leader, because if I don't, I'll be loopy. I'll be all lost
Right.
and all.
Nah, that's it right there. You know, as a Christian as well, I'm right there aligned with you. And for those that don't have that spiritual connection, or even those that do, I call that positive self-talk, where I'm like, you've got to constantly be having a conversation with yourself, especially as a leader, because if you don't, then that stress will just consume you. And so it's that concept of what can you say to yourself to keep your level of stress down. Hey, I got this. I'm doing a good job. I'm supposed to be here. Lord, cover me, cover my decision making. We need to continue to talk to ourselves and not silence our own voice. You know, we listen to everybody else's voice, and then we forget to hear our own. And so I really appreciate that mindset of bringing your belief system to your job so that you don't let your job consume you,
Yeah.
because a job can come and go, but your belief systems stay constant. We don't typically flip flop on what we believe in, right? You hit a certain age, I think it's like 12 years old, research shows, where it's pretty much what you believe in, who you are, for the most part, when it comes to morals and values, is set. So bring those beliefs with you so that you can withstand the stress and be resilient. That's powerful. I think we need to make a poster with that. Like, you know, don't get to the job and put your beliefs aside.
Yes.
That'll stress you to the core, right? You're making decisions that you know are wrong, that don't
Yes.
sit right with your spirit. And then you expect to still be able to be happy and enjoy life and not take it out on your family or your friends or even other colleagues or employees. It won't work when you keep trying to be somebody you're not.
That's right.
Man, that's it right there. That's it. Well, as we come to a close, because, you know, honestly, with leadership, it's one of those conversations that is an ongoing conversation, and hopefully we're always, as a leader, trying to grow. But if you could close us out with one final piece of advice. So if you could tell a leader who is in a leadership role right now, or potentially an emerging leader, one piece of advice, what would it be?
So I want to speak to the current leader who's in their role, but they are frustrated. They are over the position. I was there too at one point. I wanted to give up on leading. I said, listen, bring me back to an individual contributor position, because leading is way too much. But what I discovered is that as I delved into who I was, what I stood for, my values, my beliefs, my purpose, and understanding that regardless of the position I was in, I will always be a leader. It transformed how I led. Even you as an emerging leader, when you determine that regardless of the positional title that you have, that you are a leader and you are determined to lead well, invest in yourself so that leading becomes a place of ease. So it's a place where you can spread out and give the best version of yourself, giving yourself grace also in the process to learn and grow. So I would say just don't give up and be willing to go the distance as a leader in general, having that as a part of what grounds you as a leader.
I love it, Shiteria. That is a beautiful message. I hope that you all are listening today. She has stamped it. I agree wholeheartedly. I think that that's going to move somebody and is going to really be powerful for those that are listening. So I just want to formally thank you so much for coming on the Communicate to Lead Leadership Conference on today. I think that you are dynamic and you have just made a difference in the conference. So just thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Charlie, for having me. I'm excited for what the Communicate to Lead conference is doing for people, what it will continue to do, and how you will use it. And I'm excited for all of the speakers that will come and touch this conference. And I'm grateful that you have even invited me to share. So,
Yes.
thank you so much, Charlie.
Wonderful. So if people want to connect with you as a leadership coach, please tell them, how can we connect with you after this?
Yes. So on all of the social media platforms, my name is Shiyterea Jones. And so you can connect with me there.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for coming to the Communicate to Lead Leadership Conference. Y'all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye.